The fluorescent lights buzzed like angry hornets overhead, their cold hum the only sound in the cavernous high school gymnasium after hours. I slammed my locker shut, the metallic clang echoing like a gunshot in the sudden silence, heart pounding from the sprint across campus. Too late, always too late. And then, with a final, indifferent click from the far end of the hall, the janitor's keys turned in the main doors, sealing me inside this concrete tomb where no one ever looked twice. My breath caught, fogging the air in the chill of early autumn, as I realized the building was empty. Truly empty, save for the ghosts of pep rallies and whispered secrets long faded. I wasn't supposed to be here. Not like this. Not alone with the weight of a backpack full of unsent letters and a soul I'd buried deeper than the football field's turf. But in that locked silence, something shifted. The shadows peeled back just enough to reveal him, Casey, leaning against the bleachers with a cigarette dangling unlit from his lips. His blue eyes locking onto mine like he'd been waiting for the world to forget us both. I froze, the air thickening between us, charged with the kind of electricity that storms brew before they break. Casey didn't move at first, just tilted his head. That crooked half-smile of his cutting through the dim light like a knife through fog. Equal parts mischief and mercy. "Russell?" he said, voice low and gravelly from too many late nights and not enough sleep. "You look like you just saw a ghost. Or maybe, you are one." We'd known each other since freshman year, back when Milford High was a maze of awkward crushes and cafeteria hierarchies. But Casey had always been the son. Charismatic, untouchable, the quarterback who could charm teachers into extra credit and girls into blushes that lit up the bleachers. I was the shadow, the kid with the dog-eared poetry books and a sketchpad full of faces I'd never dare show. Invisible in the way that hurts most. Not hated, just overlooked. Our paths crossed in English class, debating Frost's The Road Not Taken, until Mr. Hargrove threatened detention. And from there, it was stolen glances in the halls, notes passed under desks that said nothing and everything. But that night, with the doors bolted and the clock ticking toward midnight, those glances ignited. Casey flicked his unlit smoke away, pushing off the bleachers with the easy grace of someone who'd grown up dodging tackles on Friday nights. He was taller than I remembered up close, broad-shouldered in his Letterman jacket, the faint scent of pine soap and autumn leaves clinging to him like a promise. "Heard the lock," he murmured, stepping closer, his boots scuffing softly on the polished floor. "Figured it was you. Always the last one out, Russ. Like you're afraid the world might notice if you leave too soon." I swallowed hard, my throat dry as the chalk dust from the blackboard erasable. "What are you doing here?" It came out sharper than I meant, laced with the panic of being seen, truly seen, when all I'd ever wanted was to fade into the walls. "Same as you, probably." His eyes searched mine, blue as the summer skies over Lake Michigan that we'd talked about escaping to someday. "Hiding." He paused, the word hanging heavy, then added softer. "From everything. Everyone." The gym felt smaller then, the high ceilings pressing down like the expectations of Milford, a Rust Belt town in upstate New York where steel mills rusted into memory and dreams came cheap, but fulfillment cost everything. My parents ran the local diner, grease-stained aprons and endless shifts. Their love a quiet endurance that left no room for questions about why their son spent evenings sketching boys instead of chasing cheerleaders. Casey's dad was the fire chief, a bear of a man with a temper that scorched as hot as the blazes he fought. And his mom, well, she'd checked out years ago, leaving him to navigate the wreckage alone. We talked that night, words spilling like rain off the eaves, about the pressure of the upcoming homecoming game, the scout from Syracuse who'd promised Casey a scholarship if he just kept his head down and threw straighter, about my portfolio of drawings, hidden in the lining of my duffel, faces of classmates twisted into something more honest than their smiles. Hours blurred. The janitor's oversight became our accidental sanctuary. When dawn's first gray light filtered through the clerestory windows, we pried open a side exit with a crowbar from the maintenance closet, laughing breathlessly as we tumbled into the dew-kissed grass. "See," Casey said, clapping a hand on my shoulder, the touch lingering a beat too long, warm through my thin hoodie. "Not invisible anymore. Not to me." That was the spark. Over the next weeks, it built slow, like the turning leaves outside, stolen coffees at the diner's back booth after my shift, his truck idling at the edge of the soccer field where I'd sketch under the floodlights. He'd bring mixtapes of Springsteen and the Killers, blasting Mr. Brightside until the windows rattled, and I'd read him snippets from my journal, poems about boys who loved in silence. Our first real touch was accidental. A brush of fingers over a shared thermos of coffee on a crisp October morning. But it lingered, electric, pulling us closer. By Halloween, it was more. We carved pumpkins on his garage floor, the air thick with the scent of cider and wet earth from the rain. Truth or dare? He challenged, knife pausing mid-scoop, his knee bumping mine under the workbench. I chose truth, heart hammering. What's the one thing you'd change about Milford if you could? I thought of the whispers in the locker room, the way eyes slid past me like I was a smudge on the window. Make it so no one has to hide who they are, I said finally, voice steady despite the storm inside. His gaze held mine, something raw flickering there, recognition, maybe fear. Then he leaned in, dare unspoken, and our lips met in a kiss that tasted of pumpkin spice and possibility. Soft at first, tentative, then deepening with the hunger of all we'd suppressed. His hands framed my face, thumbs tracing my jaw, and in that moment, the garage walls fell away. It was just us, two boys unraveling in the half-light. But Milford wasn't kind to unravelings. Rumors started small. A teammate spotting Casey's truck parked too long near the old mill. A classmate overhearing our laughter from the diner's alley. I felt the shift in the halls. Sidelong glances, a snicker behind a textbook. Casey bore it with his quarterback grin, but I saw the cracks. The way he'd tense when his dad bellowed from the living room, demanding updates on plays instead of asking how his day went. Winter descended like a shroud, snow blanketing the town in white silence. Our moments grew precious, snatched between blizzards. Snowshoeing through the pines behind his house, breath clouding as we confessed dreams of New York City, where lights never dimmed and love didn't have to whisper. We'll go after graduation, he'd say, pulling me close by the fire pit, his voice a vow against the cold. You and me, Russ. No more hiding. I believed him. God, how I believed him. Until the night of the winter formal, when the gym glittered with fairy lights and the bass thumped like a heartbeat too fast. I'd mustered courage for a thrift store suit, tie knotted crooked, hoping to steal a dance in the shadows. But when I slipped through the crowd, there he was, Casey, arms slung around Emily Hargrove's waist, her laughter bright as the disco ball. He met my eyes across the floor, and the apology in them hit like a slap. Betrayal, sharp and silver-edged. I bolted, the cold air outside whipping my face as I ran toward the frozen river, tears freezing on my cheeks. How could he, after the promises, the touches that mapped our souls? The betrayal wasn't just the dance. It was the erasure, the way he'd tucked me back into invisibility to save his skin. Hours later, my phone buzzed, his text. I'm sorry. Dad found out. Said it'd ruin everything. Please, Russ, meet me at the mill. I went, fury and ache warring in my chest. The old steel mill loomed like a skeleton against the starry sky, its rusted beams groaning in the wind. Casey was there, pacing the loading dock, jacket zipped to his chin. He threatened to pull my scholarship, he blurted as I approached, words tumbling like avalanche snow. Said if anyone found out about us, I'd be done, team, college, all of it. Emily's just a cover, Russ. A shield. A shield. I echoed, voice breaking. What about me? Am I just collateral? His face crumpled, hands reaching for mine, but I stepped back. No, you're everything. This town's poison, but I thought. You thought you could have it both ways. The words tasted bitter, true. We argued until our voices echoed hollow, accusations flying like shards. My invisibility as a crutch, his fear as a chain. In the end, he pulled me into a desperate hug, our foreheads pressed together, breaths mingling in the frost. I love you, he whispered, the first time aloud, and it shattered me. Love, raw and reckless, in a place built for rust. But love doesn't thaw betrayal overnight. Spring came hesitant, crocuses pushing through snow like stubborn hopes. We rebuilt in fragments. Anonymous notes in lockers, walks along the rail trail where no one ventured. Graduation loomed, a guillotine blade, and with it, the scout's visit, Casey's ticket out or his noose. The climax hit on prom night, under a sky bruised purple. I'd skipped the dance, opting for the rooftop of the abandoned warehouse by the tracks. Sketchpad in lap, drawing the skyline as if it could swallow my pain. Footsteps clattered up the fire escape. Casey, breathless, tucks rumpled, eyes wild. "They know," he gasped, collapsing beside me. Teammates cornered me in the bathroom. "Saw the note I left you. Called me. Everything. Dad's on his way with the cops. Says it's indecent exposure, or some bullshit to scare me straight." Panic surged, but beneath it, clarity. "Then run with me," I said, grabbing his hand. "Now. Screw the scholarship, the town, everything." He hesitated, the weight of Milford pressing down. The dad who'd raised him on heroics, the mom who'd fled similar chains. Then, with a nod that broke my heart open, he stood. "Okay. Yeah. Okay." We fled into the night, hearts pounding. The warehouse's shadow our last goodbye. Sirens wailed distant as we hit the highway in his beat-up Ford. Windows down, wind whipping our regrets away. New York waited, imperfect but open, where invisibility was a choice, not a sentence. Years later, in a Brooklyn walk-up with paint-peeling walls and dreams taped to the fridge, we'd look back on that run as our becoming. Casey coached Little League now. No scholarships but a family that saw him whole. I illustrated children's books, faces full of color and courage. Betrayal had scarred us, but it forged something unbreakable. A love humanistic in its flaws, romantic in its persistence, dramatic as the empty halls where it began. And in quiet moments, over coffee black as midnight, he'd squeeze my hand and say, "You were never invisible, Russ. You just needed the right light." The drive south was a blur of sodium lamps and rain-slicked interstates. Casey's knuckles white on the wheel as thunder rolled like judgment from the clouds. We'd grabbed what we could. My sketchpad, his glove compartment Bible from his mom, a duffel of clothes, and left the rest to the vultures of Milford. "Keep your head down," he muttered when a state trooper's lights flashed in the rearview. But it was just a semi, and we exhaled in unison, the cab filling with the scent of wet leather and unspoken fears. By dawn, we crossed into Pennsylvania, the Appalachians rising like ancient guardians, their peaks cloaked in mist. Casey pulled into a truck stop off I-81, the kind with fluorescent buzz and coffee that tasted like regret. We sat at a Formica counter, shoulders brushing, pretending to be strangers who belonged. "Waffles?" he asked, forcing a grin. But his eyes were red-rimmed, haunted by the rearview ghosts. I nodded, tracing the cracks in the tabletop with my thumbnail. "With extra syrup. For luck." It was a stupid ritual from our first diner date, but it anchored us, sweet and sticky against the sour twist of exile. The waitress, a woman with bingo wings and a name tag reading Doris, poured refills without questions, her gaze lingering on Casey's bruised jaw, a parting gift from his dad's fist, hidden under concealer I'd swiped from the diner's lost and found. "You boys runnin' from something?" she asked finally, voice gravelly as the gravel lot outside. Casey stiffened, but I met her eyes. "Just toward it, ma'am." She slid us a free slice of pie, winking like she knew the score, and for a moment Milford felt 1,000 miles away. Not just in asphalt, but in souls. We pushed on, zigzagging through the Keystone State, sleeping in the truck at rest areas where semis idled like sleeping beasts. Nights were the hardest. In the dark, doubts crept in like fog off the Susquehanna. "What if I can't do this?" Casey whispered one evening, parked under a canopy of oaks, his head on my lap as fireflies danced outside. "What if I'm not cut out for us without the playbook?" I ran fingers through his hair, calloused from years of spirals and hikes. "Then we'll improvise, like that time you faked the handoff against Elmira." He chuckled, low and broken, and pulled me down for a kiss that tasted of diner pie and desperation. Gentle, affirming, a reminder that our bodies were maps we'd only begun to explore, not conquer. Betrayal lingered, though a thorn under the skin. I'd catch myself staring at the dashboard, replaying the winter formal. Emily's hand on his arm, the way he'd looked through me like glass. "Why'd you do it?" I asked finally, as we crested a hill near Harrisburg, the river glinting silver below. "The dance. Her." He pulled over, engine ticking cool, and turned to me, face etched with regret. "Fear, Russ. Plain and ugly." Dad's voice in my head. "Men don't bend that way. I thought if I played straight I could buy time. For us." His hand covered mine, trembling. "But it cost you. Cost us. And I'll spend every day making it right." Tears pricked, but I squeezed back. "Start with honesty. No more shields. Deal." The word sealed it, fragile as the first green shoots after frost. We hit Philly by week's end, the city of brotherly love, a chaotic embrace of row houses and Liberty Bells. Casey found day labor on construction sites, his quarterback build hauling rebar like it was a medicine ball. I buskied sketches in Rittenhouse Square, tourists tossing quarters for portraits that captured their fleeting joys. Evenings, we'd collapse in a flophouse room with peeling wallpaper, sharing takeout hoagies and stories of the day. His foreman calling him kid with grudging respect. My first sale to a drag queen who saw the queer fire in my lines. But conflict brewed, subtle as the Schuylkill's current. Casey's calls home were terse, his dad grunting non-apologies, teammates texting half-hearted, "Miss ya," man-s that reeked of pity. One night, buzzed on cheap yangling, he confessed, "They outed us in the paper. Local hero flees after scandal. Mom sent clippings. Says dad's drinking worse." Rage flared, hot and helpless. "Let them talk. We're free." "Are we?" His eyes searched mine, vulnerable. "Or just running in circles?" The question hung, unanswered, as summer humidity thickened the air. Fall found us in D.C., monuments looming like stern uncles. The National Mall, a green expanse of history we'd rewrite our own chapter in. Casey enrolled in community college night classes, urban planning, of all things, dreaming of revitalizing Rust Belt towns without the rot. I waitressed at a DuPont Circle Cafe, the rainbow flags fluttering like beacons, where tips came with winks and whispers of community centers, pride parades. Our love deepened in those months, romantic in its routines. Picnics by the tidal basin with cherry blossoms shedding like confetti. His hand in mine under the table at dimly lit bistros. We'd dance slow to Otis Redding on a thrift store radio, bodies swaying in the cramped kitchen, laughter bubbling when we'd step on toes. "You're my road less traveled," he'd murmur, quoting Frost, and I'd melt, the scar of betrayal fading to a faint line. Yet the past clawed back. A letter arrived, forwarded from Milford. His dad, scrawled in block letters. "Come home, boy. This city's turning you soft. Scholarships still open if you man up." Casey burned it in the sink, flames dancing in his eyes, but I saw the pull, the gravity of blood. Winter brought the storm. Snow blanketed the Capitol, turning the Lincoln Memorial into a ghost. Casey's foreman offered a full-time gig in Baltimore. Steady pay, benefits, but it meant long hours, distance creeping in. "It's for us," he said, but I heard the echo of old excuses. One blizzard night, holed up in our studio with cocoa and a space heater, I confronted it. "Don't shield me from the truth. If you're doubting, I'm not." He pulled me close, urgent. "But Dad called. Says he's sick. Liver. From the booze." Tears tracked his cheeks. "Part of me wants to go back, fix it. But I can't lose you." The climax cracked open then, raw as the wind howling outside. "You won't," I said, voice fierce. "But going back means facing him, us on our terms. No hiding." He nodded, broken but resolute. "Together. Always." Spring thawed us toward New York, the skyline a jagged promise. We arrived penniless but painted. Casey with blueprints for community gardens. Me with a portfolio bursting at the seams. Brooklyn welcomed us rough, A brownstone walk-up in Bed-Stuy where roaches were roommates and rent was roulette. The betrayal's echo faded entirely one June evening. At our first Pride, rainbow flags whipping in the wind, floats thumping bass that vibrated bones. Hand in hand through the throng, Casey's laugh free and full, we danced under confetti skies. This, he shouted over the roar, this is us, visible, whole. And in that moment, the empty halls of Milford were just a memory. A lock turned, a door opened, leading here. Brooklyn's pulse was relentless, a heartbeat of sirens and street vendors hawking halal carts under sodium glow. Our first month was survival. Casey pounding pavement for architecture gigs, his broad frame folding into subway seats with blueprints clutched like lifelines. Me temping at graphic design firms in Manhattan, commuting over the bridge where the East River churned indifferent below. Evenings, we'd reconvene in our shoebox apartment, take out falafel wrappers crinkling as we plotted conquests over lukewarm beer. You're glowing? Casey said one night, tracing my collarbone with a fingertip, the touch light as cherry blossom petals. We just landed my first freelance gig, illustrating a queer YA novel about runaways finding home, and the advance bought us a real mattress, springs no longer conspiring against sleep. I arched into him, the warmth of his body a harbor. Because of you, us. Our intimacy had evolved, no longer frantic edges but slow explorations. Kisses that lingered like jazz solos, hands mapping freckles and scars with reverence. It was romantic, yes, but humanistic too. Love as partnership, not possession, built on the ruins of what came before. But Milford's shadow stretched long. Casey's phone buzzed with updates. His dad in hospice now, the town whispering of the prodigal son's folly. Teammates married off, babies on the way, lives scripted in heteronormative ink. They sent photos, he admitted over burnt toast one morning. Screen glowing with backyard barbecues. Jake's kid looks just like him. Wonder what ours would. The word hung, unborn, stirring something deep. A future we'd skirted, afraid to name. Someday, I said, squeezing his knee under the Formica table. When we're ready. Summer sweltered, asphalt shimmering, and conflict simmered anew. Casey's firm landed a contract, revamping a community center in the Bronx. But it demanded overtime, his return smelling of sawdust and stress. I'd wait up, sketches piling like unanswered letters, the apartment echoing with absence. One sticky August night, he stumbled in at 2 a.m., tie askew, eyes glassy from a team drink. Sorry, he slurred, collapsing onto the couch. Bosses, clients, they ask about family and I said partner, like it's normal. Pride swelled, but so did caution. It is normal. I knelt, unlacing his shoes, but he pulled away, sudden. What if it's not enough? What if Dad dies hating me? The vulnerability cracked him open, old wounds festering. You deserve more than this, scraping by, watching me unravel. Don't, I warned, heart twisting. Don't push me away to protect us. That's the betrayal all over again. He flinched, the word a lash. Silence stretched, thick as humidity, until he reached for me, apology in his grip. I'm scared, Russ, of losing it all. Again. We talked till dawn, words weaving nets for our fears. Therapy apps on my phone. Support groups in the village. It was messy, emotional, the kind of drama that forges or fractures. But we chose forge, hands clasped over cooling coffee. Fall brought harvest. My book illustrations hit shelves. A launch party in a Soho loft where authors toasted hidden heroes. Casey presented his designs to the center's board, voice steady as he spoke of spaces for the unseen. Accolades trickled, his promotion to junior architect, my agent sniffing commissions. Yet the call came on All Hallows Eve, wind rattling windows like bony fingers. Casey's mom, voice tinny over the line. He's gone, honey. Liver gave out. Funeral's Saturday. Come if you can. Grief hit like a nor'easter, raw and relentless. Casey paced the apartment, fists clenched, torn between closure and chains. I should go, he said finally, eyes on the floor. Say goodbye. For me. I nodded, throat tight. I'll go with you. No. Sharp, reflexive. It's Milford. They'd eat you alive. The old shield, rearing. Try again, I said, voice even. I'm not hiding. Not anymore. Debate raged. His fear of small-town stares, my resolve to stand visible. In the end, compromise. I'd fly up alone first, scout the waters, give him space to breathe. The flight to Buffalo was turbulent, clouds boiling like my gut. Milford hadn't changed. Same sagging porches, the diner sign flickering open 24/7 like a lie. I checked into a motel on the outskirts, neon buzzing vacancy, and walked the familiar streets, ghosts in every lamppost. The funeral was a tableau of flannel and folded flags. The VFW hall packed with firefighters in dress blues. Casey's dad lay stern even in repose, jowls slack but judgment etched eternal. I slipped in back, hoodie up, but eyes found me. Jake, broader now with a toddler on hip. Emily, rings glinting, her gaze sharpening like she remembered the formal's phantom. No confrontation, just whispers rippling. That's the one, the artist fag who stole our boy. I held chin high, sketching the scene in my mind. Faces contorted in grief and grudge, for later catharsis. After, at the graveside under gray skies, Casey arrived last, suit ill-fitting from disuse. Our eyes met across the crowd, a current pulling. He approached post-burial, voice low. You came. Couldn't not. We hugged brief, public, fraternal mask, but his grip said home. His mom pulled him aside then, tears streaking her powder. He loved you, Casey, in his way, left you the house, said, forgive me for not seeing. Grief cracked him, and later, in the empty childhood home, dust motes dancing in slanted light, we unraveled. He knew, Casey sobbed, head in my lap on the threadbare couch. About us, that's why the threats. Feared I'd end up broken like him. Empathy flooded, humanistic tide washing resentment. You didn't. You're whole. Because you chose. We stayed the night, not for inheritance, but healing. Burning old playbooks in the fireplace, toasting with his dad's bourbon to absolution. Dawn broke clear, and as we drove back to the airport, Milford shrank in the mirror, no longer tomb but touchstone. Back in Brooklyn, the betrayal's ghost exorcised. Our love bloomed fuller. Casey sold the house, proceeds funding a down payment on a co-op in Crown Heights. Walls we painted sky blue, windows framing brownstone stoops where kids played stickball. Winter wrapped us gentle, holidays strung with lights and laughter. We hosted a solstice dinner for new friends, my editor, his colleague from the center, sharing stories of runs and revelations. To visibility, Casey toasted, glass clinking mine, his smile crooked as ever. And in the quiet after, snow falling soft outside, he'd pull me close, whispering, thank you for not letting me fade. The new year dawned with ambition's edge, 2026 etching itself in frost on our window panes. Casey's center project broke ground, a gleaming hub of murals and makerspaces rising from Bronx concrete, a beacon for the marginalized, his blueprints breathing life into invisibility's antidote. I'd landed a children's book deal, shadows to spotlights, tales of boys finding their glow, illustrations vibrant as our reclaimed nights, rhythm settled, romantic in its reliability. Mornings with espresso and crosswords, his foot hooked round my ankle under the quilt. Evenings sketching side by side at the kitchen table, vinyl spinning Dylan laments turned anthems. Intimacy wove deeper, not in grand gestures but graces. His thumb brushing flour from my cheek after failed pancakes. My head on his chest listening to heartbeats sink like bass lines. But drama lurked in success's shadow. My book tour kicked off in March, a whirlwind of readings from Boston to Baltimore. Crowds leaning in for stories that mirrored their own hidden hurts. Casey joined when he could, proud in the back row, but distance gnawed, texts at odd hours, his miss you laced with fatigue from site deadlines. One April night, post-event in Philly, the city of our flight's midpoint, I checked into the hotel alone, champagne buzz fading to ache. My phone lit. Call me. Important. Heart stuttered, I dialed. Russ. His voice cracked, background hum of bar noise. Met someone today. From the firm. Investor type. Big shot from Syracuse, the Scouts' old firm, actually. Jealousy flickered, irrational but real. Good for you. Networking. A pause. Heavy. More. He gets it. The pressure, the past. Bought drinks, talked shop. Said I remind him of his younger self. Closeted in the prose. The words landed soft, but thorns embedded. And nothing happened, but felt easy. Seen without the history. Betrayal's echo, faint but familiar. I swallowed sting. I'm glad. Just talk to me. Don't shield. I won't. Promise, but doubt lingered like exhaust. The tour dragged, each city a mirror. Admirers sharing coming out scars. Fueling my fire but hollowing the homeward pull. Back in Brooklyn, we mended with a weekend getaway. Upstate cabin by a lake, echoes of Michigan dreams. We hiked trails mossy with spring, skipping stones across water glassy as resolve. There, Casey said, arm round my waist as we watched ripples fade. No investors, no tours, just us. Lips met, slow burn under pine shade, reaffirming claims. But confession came fireside that night, embers popping like truths. I panicked, he admitted, marshmallows toasting golden. That guy Mark flirted, subtle, and part of me responded. Old habits, fear of not being enough. Vulnerability disarmed, my hand finding his. You're enough, always were, but temptation's human. What matters is choosing. He nodded, tears glinting. I chose you, every time. The climax built insidious, summer's heat wave mirroring inner boil. Casey's project hit snag, funding cut by city brass. Whispers of diversity quotas masking bias. Stress etched lines round his eyes. Sleep fractured by midnight blueprints. I pushed my next deadline, illustrations blurring in worry. One sweltering July eve he snapped, over burnt dinner, my take a break, landing like accusation. Easy for you to say, your world's rainbows and readings. Mine's fighting for scraps. Hurt flared. And I fight too, alone, while you're networking with ghosts. Words escalated, old fissures cracking. My invisibility complex, clashing his savior syndrome. Plates clattered, doors slammed. I stormed to the fire escape. City cacophony below, a roar matching my pulse. Hours later, he found me, blanket draped, stars pricking urban haze. I'm sorry, he whispered, sitting close but not touching. The pressure. It's Milford all over. Dad's voice, saying I'll fail. I leaned into him, bridge rebuilding. Then let me carry some. We're a team. Reconciliation was tear-streaked. Embraces fierce. Love's drama not in destruction, but endurance. We sought counseling, a queer therapist in Williamsburg who unpacked our baggage with gentle probes. His abandonment wounds, my erasure fears. Fall gilded the leaves, and with it, triumph. Casey's center secured private donors. Mark among them, platonic now, a bridge not betrayal. My book won a Lambda literary nod. Launch party packed with allies who'd become family. But the true peak crested in October. A call from Milford. Jake, voice gruff over static. Coach retired. Town wants you back for a youth clinic. On your terms. No bullshit. Casey stared at the phone. Post hang up. Wonder dawning. They remember. Redemption's whisper. We debated flights, but chose ground. A road trip north. Mustang rented for the haul. Autumn foliage a fiery escort. Milford greeted wary. Diner booths still sticky, but faces softer. The clinic was a gym full of wide-eyed kids. Casey demoing passes with ease reborn. Jake clapped his back post-session. Toddler tugging pants. Proud of you, man. Took guts. Emily approached too, coffee in hand. Heard about the book. My boy's reading it. Says the drawings make him brave. No apology but absolution in her eyes. That night, in the old mill's shadow, now a arts co-op, murals vibrant. We stood arm in arm, town lights twinkling tentative welcome. Full circle, Casey murmured, kiss pressed to temple. Not circle, I corrected, smiling. Spiral, upward. Winter whispered in, holidays heartfelt. Casey's mom visiting, her embrace tentative then tight, sharing stories of young love lost. We strung lights on our stoop, neighbors nodding approval, visibility's quiet victory. And as snow dusted the burrow, we'd curl by radiator's hiss, his head on my shoulder. No more empty halls, he'd say, fingers laced. Just ours, filled. 2027 unfurled like a banner, bold and beckoning. Casey's center ribbon cut in spring. A gala of laughter echoing off fresh walls. Murals I'd illustrated blooming with color. Kids' choirs belting anthems of belonging. He spoke that night, podium steady. This place is for the ones the world locks out early. May it teach them their scene. Eyes misty, I applauded from front row, pride swelling chest tight. My own ascent mirrored. Second book inked, echoes unlocked. Delving deeper into betrayal's bomb. Pre-orders stacking like affirmations. Life's tapestry wove richer. Brunch Sundays with therapist-forged friends. A rescue mutt named Frost curling at our feet. Romance infused mundane. Casey's notes tucked in lunch bags. Doodles of us as superheroes. My playlists curated for his commutes. Springsteen segues to hosier hymns. Yet conflict coiled, subtle serpent. An offer landed for Casey, head architect at a DC firm. Salary doubling, prestige gleaming. It's a step up, he said over pad thai, chopsticks pausing. For us, better school someday travel. Doubt flickered, my fork tracing sauce swirls. Or a step back, to suits and shields. He bristled, defensive. Not everything's Milford, Russ. Growth means risk. Debates simmered weeks, pros cons listed on fridge whiteboard. Stability versus soul, Capital's cherry trees against Brooklyn's grit. Nights cooled, touches tentative, the apartment's warmth dimming. Climax crested midsummer, heat lightning cracking skies. I returned from a signing in Chicago to find him packing subtle suits hung neat in closet voids. Decided, he announced, box of ties in arms. DC starts September. You could transfer your agent. Could. Echo hurt. Sharp. Or should I follow like some plot device? Hurt flashed reciprocal. I thought we're partners. Isn't this our dream? Yours, maybe. Voice rose, storm breaking. Mine's here, roots in the soil, visibility in these streets. You running again? From what? Us getting too real. Accusation landed, his face paling. It's not running. It's building. But if you see chains. He trailed. Box thudding floor. Silence thundered. Rain lashing panes. I grabbed coat. Fleeing to rooftop. City sprawl, a glittering accusation. Hours blurred. Phone silent. When I returned, dawn pale, he sat vigil. Eyes shadowed. Mug cold. I'm sorry, he started. But I held hand. No. Me too. Fears the betrayer now. We unpacked, literally and not. Ties refold, dreams renegotiated. The offer? Declined with grace. Grateful, but my heart's in the 5 boroughs. DC faded, replaced by local expansions. Casey's firm greenlighting satellite projects. Balance tilting homeward. Fall's palette painted forgiveness. Leaf peeping drives to the Hudson. Hands clasped over gearshift. Apologies evolving to aspirations. Kids. He ventured one crimson afternoon. Picnic blanket rumpled. Not now, but adoption, surrogacy, making our own team. Heart stuttered, joy tentative. Yeah, someday. With you. Humanistic hope. Love's quiet revolution. Winter brought whimsy. A surprise trip to the Keys. Funded by my book's audio deal. Biplanes buzzing overhead as we kayaked mangroves emerald. Escape without exile. Casey quipped. Paddling tandem. Our laughter scaring herons. Back north. Snow-sculpted stoops. And betrayal specter? Banished. A letter from Emily arrived. Her coming out, post-divorce. Your story gave me courage. Thanks for being the light we couldn't see. Tears shared. Forwarded to his mom. Threads weaving wider. Spring 2028 bloomed audacious. Casey's center expanded, annex for queer youth. My illustrations adorning walls, workshops on art as armor. I mentored at local schools, sketches sparking shy smiles in kids who'd locked themselves early. Romance reignited fervent. Anniversary in the village, candlelit bistro where we slow danced to Ella. His whisper hot on neck. Every choice leads here. To you. But drama danced eternal. A storm literal. Hurricane whispers off Carolina. Threatened the center. Floods lapping foundations. Casey coordinated sandbags at midnight. Soaked to skin. I joined. Flashlights bobbing like fireflies in frenzy. Post-flood. Dawn breaking watery gold. We assessed damage. Minor, miraculously. Collapsing against sandbag walls. Mud-caked. He pulled me close. Couldn't do this without you. Nor I you. Kiss salt-tanged. Survival seal. Summer sizzled with serendipity. Jake's visit. Toddler now loping. Milford tales tumbling benevolent. Town's changing, he said over ribs. Pride flag at the diner. You're doing. Pride swelled mutual. Casey beamed arm round my chair. Fall harvested bounty. My third book, Casey's TEDx talk on designing visibility. Viral ripples reaching Rust Belt kin. Holidays hummed. His mom's turkey, our twist vegan sides, frost-gnawing bone-shaped treats. New Year's Eve, fireworks bursting over the bridge. We stood balcony embraced. To spirals, I toasted champagne fizzing. Upward, he echoed, lips claiming mine. Promise, passion, perpetuity. Yet beneath, emotional undercurrents stirred. Casey's mom announced remarriage, a gentle librarian from Buffalo. Invitation laced with "Bring Russ." We flew up, nerves jangling, but the wedding was warmth. Vows exchanged under autumn arches, her hand in mine post-ceremony. Your family now. Healing's humanism, betrayal transmuted to belonging. Winter wrapped reflective, therapy sessions tapering, our narrative owned. One snowy night, snowshoeing Prospect Park, he dropped to knee, not ring but key, to a plot in the center's garden. Plant roots with me, here. Tears froze, yes fervent. Forever. Spring's thaw mirrored thaw within, seed sown, sprouts stubborn, mirroring us. And in quiet eves, sketchpad open, his profile golden in lamplight, I trace lines knowing. Invisibility was myth. We'd illuminated each other, halls forever open. 2029 arrived with wings, ambition airborne. Casey's garden plot burgeoned. Tomatoes ruby as resolve. Herbs scenting air with basil benedictions. My mentorship burgeoned too. After-school clubs sprouting in burrows. Kids' eyes widening at pencil's power. Draw your brave, I'd say. Watching invisibles emerge vivid. Life's ledger balanced. Joint savings ticking toward that someday family. Date nights at jazz dens where sax whales wove our story. Romance remained revelation. His surprise poetry slams, verses raw as our first confessions. My custom murals in our living room, us eternalized in watercolor embrace. Conflict crept comedic at first. Frost's puppy antics escalating to chewed blueprints. Casey's mock fury dissolving in tickle wars. But deeper discord dawned autumnal. My agent pitching a memoir. Locked out. A love unearthed. Skeletons demanded exhumed. Milford again? Casey queried over soup, spoon pausing. We left that ghost. Not left, claimed. I stirred broth, metaphors mixing. It's our arc betrayal to bloom. Helps others. Debate dance dinners. His privacy please. Dad's barely dust. Let him rest. Clashing my catharsis call. Visibility's vulnerability. If not us, who? Tension tautened. Touches tentative. The apartment, once haven, hummed discord. Climax cascaded crisp October. Leaves carpeting streets scarlet. Book proposal due. I locked in studio. Former closet, now canvas chaos. Fingers flying furious. Casey knocked midnight. Tea steaming peace offering. Read it. Hesitant, I slid pages. Dawn found him tear-streaked, arms enveloping. It's beautiful, brutal, true, pause profound, publish, for the boys still locked. Relief rushed, reconciliation radiant, memoir greenlit, our narrative nexus. Winter wove wonders. Launch preview in a cozy cafe, early readers gasping me too. Casey's Center hosted a reading, youth nodding fierce recognition. Holidays harmonized, Milford road trip, his mom's new home aglow, stepdad's firm handshake. Heard the book buzz, proud. Spring surged serendipitous, adoption inquiry packet arrived, form stark as fresh snow. We poured pages by park benches, hypotheticals hopeful, brother for frost, or sister with your eyes? Nerves nibbled, but resolve rooted. Summer simmered selections. Foster orientation, home visits where social workers eyed our mismatched mugs with approval. Drama distilled domestic, first placement. A wiry 10-year-old named Theo, foster flip from Jersey chaos, eyes wary as winter wolves. Temporary, the caseworker cautioned, but his duffel hit floor tentative. Frost's sniff sealing tentative trust. Theo thawed slow, nights of nightmares, days of dodgeball defiance. Casey coached gentle, backyard catches coaxing cracks. I sketched comics, capes cloaking his fears. Why'd you run? He asked one dusk, mitt dangling. Love, Casey replied simple. Found ours. Chased it. Theo's nod. Nascent. Understanding's seed. Fall fruited fierce. Court dates. Theo's biomom relapse. Custody teetering. We paced linoleum halls. Hands clasped, crucifixion crossed. Verdict verdant. Permanency granted, our family forged. Elation erupted. Adoption party in the center's garden. Balloons bobbing. Jake toasting cross-country. To teams that tackle together. Winter welcomed whole. Theo's room repainted navy stars. Holidays hybrid, lax with his mom's kugel. Frost's bow comically cockeyed. Betrayal, distant drum, beaten back by belonging's bass. 2029's close crescendoed career. My memoired bestseller. Tours tempered by Theo's school plays. Casey's keynote at national conference. From hallways to havens. Applauded thunderous. Yet emotional eddied. Theo's questions probing. Was I locked out too? Prompting family therapy. Tears tilling tender truths. We all were, Casey confessed. But look, doors open. Spring 2030 sprouted synergy. Theo's art class overlapping mine. His stick figures evolving expressive. We volunteered tandem. Center's walls wallpapered with our collective courage. Romance renewed radiant. Anniversary escape to the Cape. Clam bakes and bonfires. Theo minded by grandparents new. Still choose you, Casey murmured. Waves whispering witness. Summer sizzled settled. Family bikes along Coney Boardwalk. Hot dogs hasty. Laughter loud. Conflict. Conquered. Reduced to squabbles over chores. Resolved in hugs. Fall's harvest hummed harmony. Theo's first school dance. Us awkward dancing demo in kitchen. Spins sloppy sweet. Holidays haloed. Extended kin converging. Milford mom beaming at her boys plural. New Year's nursed nostalgic. Balcony bubbly. Theo asleep inside. Fireworks framing faces. From empty to everything. I toasted. With you, he echoed. Kiss kindling eternal. But life's litany lingered lessons. Theo's playground taunt. Fag dads. Met with Casey's calm. Words like locks. We hold keys. School call. Conference convened. Ally teacher applauding approach. Winter wrapped wise. Memoir sequel seeded. Casey's book on urban equity outlined. We skied Adirondacks. Theo tumbling triumphant down bunny slopes. And in Eve's etched ember. Theo's head on my lap. Casey's hand in mine. Invisibility seemed myth millennia old. Our light, legion now. 2031 bloomed boundless. Family fractal expanding. Theo turned 12. Growth spurt gangly. Voice cracking choruses of awkward anthems. School solidified strides. Art club ace. His murals mirroring mine. Themes of unhiding universal. Casey's center-cloned concepts, satellites in Queens and Staten. His vision viral via viral videos of youth testimonials. My oeuvre burgeoned. Graphic novel adaptation of the memoir. Panels pulsing pulse quick. Romance ripened resilient. Date nights delegated to sitters. Stolen suppers at hole-in-wall haunts. His footsie under tables flirtatious forever. Conflict crystallized casual. Theo's tween tempest. Crushes confounding. But he's a boy. Like me. Prompting park bench parleys. Casey's quarterback analogies. Love's no fumble. It's field wide. We navigated nuanced. Books borrowed from library shelves. Talks tiptoeing truths without trauma. You're brave. Theo beamed post-clarification. Hug halting my heart. Climax crested casual too. Summer camp send-off, his duffel defiant with drawings. Letters home laced longing. Miss you, but found friends like us. Pickup parade. Tears triumphant. Family fused firmer. Fall framed flourishing. Theo's bar mitzvah, blended right. His mom's heritage honored. Rabbi queer and quippy. Casey kveled kvelling. Suit sharp. Speech stirring. From locked to launched. Winter wove whimsical. Hanukkah hikes. Frost frolicking snow. Lax lavish. New kin knit closer. Step-grandpa's stories of 60s activism. Bridges built brick by brick. Spring 2032 spurred spontaneity. Cross-country road trip, retracing our flight. Philly pit stop for hoagies nostalgic. DC monuments mused upon. Milford finale. Diner booth booked. Jake's now teen kin quizzing Theo on comics. Changed. Jake asked pie partitioning. Evolved. Casey grinned, arm round me. Thanks to this one. Summer simmered supreme. Center's anniversary bash. Bands belting. Theo DJing teen tracks. Drama. Distant. Dissolved in decibels. Fall's foliage festooned family photos. Professional shoot in park. Poses playful. Holidays hybrid heaven. Thanksgiving tumult with tables groaning. Toasts toasting tenacity. New Year's nursed new narratives. Theo's novel nudged. Our story, but superheroes. Co-author credit conferred. Pages promising. 2033 etched excellence. Book duo launched. Father-son signing sensational. Casey's TED follow-up. Global gigs globetrotting. But home harbor held. Romance? Rekindled raw. Vow renewal. Quiet Quaker rite in park. Rings resized. Words whispered. Still my light. Conflict? Conquered. Now coaching Theo's school GSA advisor role. My lectures laced legacy. Winter's whiteout whispered wisdom. Cabin retreat. Snowed in serendipitous. Stories spun round stove. Our empty hall origin. Theo's wide eyes wonder. Spring's symphony sang settlement. Adoption finalized for a sibling. Foster 6-year-old Lila. Braids bouncy. Eyes echoing our early aches. Home hummed harmony. Theo big bro beaming. Summer's sun saluted synergy. Beach days blended. Sandcastles symbolic. Forts for the forgotten. Flags flying free. Fall framed future. Lila's laughter lilting. Theo's teens tempered tender. Holidays haloed whole. Kin converged. Chaos cherished. And as 2033 closed, balcony basked in brilliance. Kids Abed. Fireworks fanning faces. From Janitor's lock to this, Casey marveled, glass chiming. Unlocking endless, I replied. Kiss cresting constellations. Years layered like leaves, loves layered deeper. Theo's college choice Columbia. Architecture echoing Casey's. Lila's leaps into letters, my legacy inked. Milford morphed memory, visits voluntary, vindication in vanquished villains. His dad's grave tended tolerant, mom's marriage model. Betrayal? Butterfly now, wings warning winds of change. We'd weathered, woven one. Humanistic hymn to hearts unhidden. In empty moments, rare, radiant. We'd wander halls of home, lights low, hands held. Never invisible, he'd affirm, echo eternal. Not anymore, I'd affirm, forever forward. And in that American dream, reforged raw and real, we walked on, visible, vital, victorious.